Hey guys, welcome to Sketchaday. I'm Spencer and I'm here to just show you some cool stuff about drawing. But before we begin, I want you to hit that subscribe button, turn on alerts, come say hi to me on Instagram. I'm at sketchaday.com, and be sure to check out sketchaday.com. It's currently under construction, working on some new stuff, but that's where you'll want to go if you want to sign up for my newsletter. And why would you do that? Well, you get this free super sketch tip guide. Had a little bit of a brain fart there, but super sketch tip guide. Check it out at sketchaday.com. So today we're going to talk about this marker pad, marker paper. Oh, I should mention, you'll want to peep the description on the video, especially today, because I'm going to post a specific link to this pad of paper and other pads of paper that I recommend and have used, so that if you're interested in trying out some marker paper, you can use those links. They'll be Amazon links. And if you make a purchase, it actually supports what we do here at Sketchaday. So the paper of choice for me is this pad, and it's gone through a couple iterations over the years. Right now it's called Copic marker paper. It used to be called Letraset as well, but it's European size, so this is an A4 size pad. It also comes in an A3, which is bigger for those who are stuck in the imperial system like us in the United States. That is equivalent to a tabloid size piece of paper, the A3, and A4 is roughly the size of a letter sheet of paper. So here's an American letter size sheet of paper, for example. Okay, and hopefully you can see the difference there. It's just a little bit more landscape, or longer in the landscape dimension, if you will. So what's the big difference and what's the deal with marker paper? Well, it comes down to, I think, two, maybe three things. So let's talk about the first one. The first thing I want to talk about is the ink handling of the paper. So I have some regular printer paper you might find or have available right here. And I'm going to put this down and I'll put this behind. And just to show you guys what happens, I'm going to take this Graphmaster marker. And if I were to just start shading, you'll notice that, yeah, it looks just as expected. You've got a little bit of pooling at the end of the stroke and the beginning, and in the middle of the stroke, you know, because you are moving a little bit faster, the ink is not absorbed as much. So that's why you get that variation or gradient. Now, with paper that is regular printer paper, it's almost like a sponge. So when I apply my marker, it's going to be sucking the ink out of the marker. So I found in my use that if I use regular printer paper with markers, it's actually going to drain the ink from the marker a lot faster than if I were using marker paper. And I'll get to that in just a sec. So that's the first thing. The next thing you'll notice is there's a couple little splotches. Well, maybe you can't notice on the overhead here because of the light, but there's a couple of splotches where the paper, this is the opposite side of the paper I just drew on, is showing transference of ink. Okay. And if I were to just work this spot a bit more, okay, you'll notice a couple things. One is how the ink itself bleeds in the paper. Again, it's kind of like a sponge, very porous. It's nice for quick ideas. If I want to just throw a little marker on, that's fine. But if I'm applying a lot of ink, I'm going to have this bleeding pattern. So the other thing you'll notice as I lift this paper is now I have even more transfer of ink onto the paper being. So the one thing you'll notice is that if I move this paper, I have a bit more transference of ink now on the paper below, okay? And you can see it on the back, and you can see how that pattern has bled through. Now, let's compare that with the marker paper. So I ripped this sheet out, I used it before, but we're gonna use the sheet again because I don't wanna waste paper. So take for example, this little area of the marker paper. Now, if you buy this specific pad of marker paper, you'll notice that it feels a bit smoother than your normal printer paper. Even premium printer paper, it feels a little smoother, but it also maintains the grain. I'm not sure how they do that, but it definitely has a little bit of texture and grain to it, although it is kind of velvety smooth. So as I apply the marker here, this is the same Graphmaster marker. Okay, with that quick stroke, I'm still getting the pooling at the end. Okay, but my stroke is a lot more. I'll do a couple more here. The fidelity of the stroke is a lot better. So here on my normal paper, I have a bit of texture showing through on the stroke. On the marker stroke, it's a lot cleaner. And by cleaner, I mean you're not getting the noise, if you will, in the stroke. And once again, I didn't cover up my other marker paper here in the back, but you can see that there's some splotching and bleeding happening as well. Now, if I flip the marker paper over, I do get the appearance of the ink showing through, but watch what happens when I actually work this paper. Okay, so let's actually try something. Let's count the number of strokes just to make it equal. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6 strokes on regular paper, and you can see how much it bled through. Now let's do that on the marker paper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6 strokes on the marker paper, and there is not a splotch on the paper below. So I'm not quite sure how they do this, but I suspect there's a coating on the back. If someone works in the paper industry and you're watching this and you make marker paper, hit me up, let me know. I'd love to learn a little bit more about the manufacturing process. But I suspect there is a coating on the back, because even as you attempt to apply marker on the back side of the paper, it's very subtle, but that pattern is not the same as it is on the front. It's almost as if something is resisting the ink being absorbed. You can actually see the ink is not completely drying on the paper on the back side as well. So I believe there is a coating on the back, and that's what keeps the ink from transferring to the pages below it. Okay, so that's one special thing about marker paper. And it also just handles the marker ink beautifully. I don't get that noisy, splotchy stroke. If I apply the stroke in the same spot, you don't get the bleeding out to the sides that you get with regular printer paper, and my markers last longer, so that's a plus. And just as a bonus, I want to talk about one more thing, and that is Prismacolor pencils or colored pencils on marker paper. So one of the things I do love about marker paper, like I mentioned, is the texture. So this is a regular piece of printer paper, okay? And you can see that there's a lot of relief, meaning a lot of undulation to the paper texture. And that's apparent because you can see it through the nature of the shading as I've shaded on the paper. Now, if I jump to the marker paper, I still get that texture, but it's just a little bit smoother, a little bit finer, and I'm able to get those subtle gradations that I want without it feeling like a super rough piece of paper. So I actually enjoy shading on marker paper quite a bit. The problem is it's a little bit expensive. So these pads can range anywhere from at the time of recording, $8 to $12 US per pad. $12 being the A3 size, $8 being the A4 size. Also, I found that sometimes it only ships from the UK or Europe, so there's that to consider. Although Amazon, and they're not sponsoring this video or anything, they have a vast distribution network, and there's ways to get the products if you do want them. So there's that to consider. You might have to wait a little bit longer, but it is available. So something you can check out. But if you do love using markers, I highly recommend using marker paper, because in the long run, even though the paper is more expensive than regular printer paper, you'll save money because you're not going to be wasting the ink from your markers in this sponge-like paper that's just going to suck them dry. So I actually have a separate set of markers that I use for printer paper because I want to preserve my better markers for doing better drawings on better paper. Well, hopefully that taught you a little bit about marker paper, why I use it. And if it's something you're curious about, again, be sure to use the link in the description. That'll help us out here at Sketchaday. And if you've made it this far, sincerely thank you. Appreciate you watching. And be sure to come say hi, leave comments if you have different brands that you like or think I should try out. I'd love to just purchase a couple and test those as well. But again, use the link. You'll be able to get this pad of marker paper tested out and let me know what you think. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Sketchaday.